Hello class, welcome to Lab 1. In Lab 1 we are going to learn how to use Markdown as it will be used throughout the entire semester. That's pretty much what you're going to be using for submitting your assignments and for creating your document for your final project as well. Markdown is a very simple technology to learn, doesn't take long, and you're going to take a lot of advantage of it. Now, let's start with question number 1, which is installing VS Code and prepping it. So how do we do it? Simple. In my Windows computer over here, and ahead of time I apologize if my computer is a little slow. I'm inside a virtual machine at the moment. So we are gonna go to VS Code, just make a simple Google search, and when you get to the Visual Studio Code page, take a look at the URL over here, code.visualstudio.com. You can click on the website, then click on download for Windows. If you're on a Mac, you click download for Mac, and we're gonna wait until this download is over. Okay, my download is over, so I'm gonna click on the little arrow over here, open, or you can open in folder and double click, run. The setup shouldn't take long because it's a very easy and straightforward installation. We're gonna click on next. Next is fine, next is fine. Yeah, I want a desktop icon. Next, install, and give it a minute. Okay, we're gonna make sure that this option over here is ticked, and we're gonna click on finish. Let's leave VS Code open. I'm gonna click the dark theme because that's the theme that I like, and we're gonna click on here. Now, question number 2, or 1.1 pretty much. We're gonna install all of these extensions. Extensions are little bits of code that make our experience using the text editor better, as it provides extra features. So when I click on the little gear icon in the corner over here, and then we click on extensions, then we're gonna search for the name of the extension that we're looking for. So just gonna put this side by side, makes it easier for me to see. And we're gonna install live server, which we're gonna be using for previewing HTML every once in a while. Then we're gonna look for Markdown all in one. This is the one we need, and we're gonna click on install. Then we need Markdown preview enhance. I'm just gonna copy paste, and this is the one we want over here, the first one. So click on install. Then we need Markdown PDF. That's the one we want. Markdown table of content, which we're gonna use towards the end of the semester, so we're gonna get it out of the way now. And we're gonna use PDF preview, just in case we need to preview a PDF file. This is gonna make our life easier, so we don't have to open a PDF viewer program. And finally, code the spell checker, because you know it's always good to have. Once we have installed the extension, we can move along to question 1.2, which is create a GitHub account using your PCCC email address. How do we do that? On Google, just go to github.com and then click on sign up. Enter your PCCC email address over here, follow the prompts, and make sure you remember that password or save it in your password manager if you have one. I'm gonna log into my account because I already have one that we use for making videos, and I'll be back with you in a second. Okay, this is my GitHub account over here. As you can see, you are gonna leave that page open. Don't close it. We're gonna use it again later. Now, next, we're gonna create a repository called CIS106. To do that, in GitHub, we're gonna click on the little plus icon over here, and we're gonna click on create new repository. We're gonna give it a name. I'm gonna call mine CIS106 Fall 22, as it's a very descriptive name. And in the description, I'm gonna say Fall 2022. We're gonna make sure it's public. We don't need to play around with anything else over here, as it doesn't. We're not gonna use it in our course, so we can just skip it. And we're gonna click on create a repository. Perfect. We're gonna leave that as is for now. So we're gonna come over here. And now, do not close GitHub. Like I said before, don't close it. And we're done with question 1. Let's move along with question number 2. In your documents folder, create a folder called Lab 1. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to Documents. And here I'm going to create a folder called Lab 1. New folder, Lab 1. Perfect. Next, we're going to download this file. So when I click over here, just have to click on the little file icon and it should start a download automatically. And the download is done. I have, okay, so if you have this program installed in your computer, WinRAR, you should open it with WinRAR. But I will assume that most of you don't have that program installed, so I'm gonna do it with the file manager instead. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna go back to my documents folder over here. I'm gonna right click on downloads and I'm gonna click on open in a new window, right? Once I have these two windows side by side, what I want to do is extract this file. I can simply go double click, let me go click and open with Windows Explorer. What you need to do is grab these files that are over here and dump them in your Lab 1 folder. Make sure the files are in there and we can move along. There are other ways you can do this. I just assume for most of you, this is something you might have already seen before. Okay, now that we have decompressed the zip file inside the Lab 1 folder, we can open VS Code and we can open the lab. It's supposed to say Lab 1 here, so that's an error I'll fix later. So I'm gonna click over here. This over here is our file manager inside our code editor, right? This is where all our files you're gonna see all your files. So I can click on Open Folder, locate the folder in my computer, which is inside Documents, Lab 1, click once, and then click on Select Folder. Your VS Code should look exactly like mine. Only 3 files inside Lab 1 folder. And here is something you should remember. Always work inside your folder. Always work inside a folder. Otherwise, you're going to have problems in the future. Never just open a file to edit. That's not how we work. We open a folder and we start our development process. Okay, now let's move along to question number 3. And in this part, we're going to go over the Markdown presentation. But to make life easy, as I explain a particular part of the presentation, I'm going to go do it in VS Code over here so that you see how it looks like. So click on what is Markdown. And here is our presentation that explains what Markdown is. So Markdown is a markup language, just how HTML is a markup language. Hypertext markup language to be specific. What Markdown does is that it allows us to write plain text documents, just words, just plain text, no formatting, no nothing, just plain text documents, but it gives us the option to add very little formatting to that document. Now, this particular markup language was invented in 2004 by John Gruber. Markdown, its purpose is to help you, the person who's writing content, to focus on just writing content. And that's it. Don't worry about the formatting, don't worry about tags, don't worry about none of that. Just focus on writing document. It is also to make a technology that is future-proof and lightweight, so that it can be used by other technologies as a base. There are a lot of implementations of Markdown. In this course, we're going to be using GitHub flavor Markdown as we're going to be using GitHub. But there is also Common Mark and Multi-Markdown. If you know one implementation, you know pretty much 98% of the others. What can you do with Markdown? Well, this is a basic technology, right? This is base. But in the field, Markdown is used primarily for writing documentations and for writing files in GitHub. For example, let's say, I don't know, Twilio documentation. Twilio, it's a software company. So these are Twilio docs over here. Let's just type GitHub over here. This is Twilio's GitHub page, for example. This is their code. Here is their documentation. This is written in Markdown. And for pretty much any project that you found on GitHub, its documentation, for the most part, is written in Markdown. Markdown is also used on static site generators, which is a technology that allows developers to build static websites, but the content of the website, it isn't written on HTML, it's written on Markdown instead, and then an engine in these static site generators convert this Markdown into HTML, which is what website documents are written in. Markdown can be also implemented in other technologies. For example, a lot of social media texting part, right, when you write comments and stuff, has some sort of Markdown implemented in the backend for supporting bold text and strike through and things like that. Now, that's just basic introduction of Markdown and what it is. Now, how do we write Markdown text? For that, I have a little exercise for you to do. This is a PDF file, right? So if we click on it, we're gonna see it over here in VS Code. The goal of this video is that by the end of the video, you are capable of creating this document in Markdown. So we're gonna go step by step on doing this. What I'm gonna do is what is the name of this lightweight PDF editor that I use? I forgot the name of it. I know it's in the 9 suite. Let me just get it from here real quick. Okay, let me go here. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to. This is Sumatra PDF. I always forget the name of this PDF reader. And I'm just gonna install this real quick. And I'm gonna close that. We don't need that. We don't need that open either. Now I'm gonna open my file manager, and I wanna open that PDF file because I'm gonna be working with that file a lot. So I'm gonna right click, properties, and I'm gonna change that to Sumatra PDF. Apply, okay, and there we go. So we're gonna keep this file open over here. So the first thing that I want you to look at this file is, notice the size of this text, which is very different from this text. This is called a heading. Documents have different sizes of headings. You have this one that's acting as the title of the document. Then you have this one, which is heading number 2, which is the title of a specific section of a document. Very similar to how you do it in Microsoft Word, right? But websites normally use this for separating content in a page. Now, to format a particular line of text as a heading in Markdown, all we have to do is provide the pound sign at the beginning of the sentence. Let me open this and here, because we need the instructions here. Okay, so we're gonna create a new file called what is Ubuntu submission.md. To create a new file, we can either create it here in the file manager by right clicking, new, and then click on new text document. Let's name this what is Ubuntu submission, and then the file extension will be .md. Click on yes over here, and there we go. We have created a file. Notice that the moment I created the file over here, it automatically appears in my VS Code file manager over here. That's one way we can do it. And by the way, if you don't see the file extensions on your machine, make sure you go to View and then click on File Name Extensions. Make sure you have this ticked on. Now, I don't want it to do it that way. Just wanted to show you that you could. I want to create it from here, from VS Code. Notice this icon on top over here. So we have Reload, and we have New Folder, and we have New File. When you click on New File, this is going to create a file right underneath the folder that you're working with. So I'm going to create this, and it's asking me for the name. What is Ubuntu submission.md? MD is the extension for Markdown. So over here, the first thing that I want to teach you is headings. So we're going to create the headings of this document from the get-go. So we know that these have the main heading, which is the title of the document, which is called, right here, let me put this on the side, what is Ubuntu? What is Ubuntu? Then we have a heading number 2, which is called Ubuntu Release Cycle, and we're gonna just gonna copy this. And 2 pound signs, a space, and then my heading number 2 text. And if we keep scrolling, we see another heading 2 over here. Then we see another heading over here. And that's about it. Now, you can have up to 7 headings in the varying in sizes. For example, if I want to create a heading number 3 over here, I can do 1, 2, 3. This is a heading 3. And that's it. Now I'm going to delete this because that's not part of the document. To save your document, and you have to do this frequently, you can go to File and click on Save. Or you can do as I do, Control and letter S on your keyboard. And that's it. That's how you do headings in Markdown. Now, working with paragraphs. To work with paragraphs, you just have to start typing. You don't have to worry about no formatting, no nothing. Just start typing. For instance, our document have this paragraph over here. So I'm just gonna copy this. And I'm gonna paste it right underneath. Okay, we're done. Now, let's say I wanna type another paragraph, right? All I have to do is leave a space in between and start typing. Hey, I am another paragraph. Look at me. To create a third paragraph again, leave a space in between and keep on typing. I am some random text. Nice to meet you. If you ever want to see how this document is looking like, right, we can just right click and use one of the extensions that we installed previously. This one is called Preview Enhance. And on the side, we'll open a panel that give us a peek on how our document will eventually look like. Notice the different size on headings and see the space left in between over here, making this one paragraph, paragraph, and paragraph. So I'm gonna close that and I'm gonna get rid of this because that's not in my original document. Okay, now notice here that I have bold text, italics or italics. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. Pardon my English as a second language pronunciation of some words. And we have more italics over here. How can we do that? And here we have a combination of both. Okay, very simple. For that, all we have to do is use the star. So if we want a bold, we use 2 stars. So let's say I want to bold Ubuntu. So I do 2 stars at the beginning, 2 stars in the end, no spaces. No spaces. And notice that the word has been bold already. So let's take a look at what else is bold over here. I'm going to put this on the side just to make my life easier. And we also have, this is italics. So to do that, we use a single star. So the word Debian needs to be italicized, and there we go, a single star. Then we go with free and open source software. So again, start at the beginning, start at the end of the sentence that I want to appear as italics, and we are done. We can combine both of them, like in the case of Ubuntu's over here. Right? So all we have to do is do 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And done. Let's save and let's take a look at our preview and see the magic happening. I will leave you to do the rest, as there are more words that you need to bold here and there are more things you need to format, but you already know how to do it. Now, there are other things you can do too. You can also put a line in the middle to any word, which is called a strike through. For that, all we have to do is the double tilde character. The tilde character is the one located underneath the escape key of your keyboard. So let's say if I want to strike through this entire sentence over here, all the way from here to here. It's quite easy. All I have to do is put 1, 2. 1, 2. Oh, sorry. 1, 2. And that's it. A line through a whole sentence. You can do a whole word too if you want. Now I'm gonna go back on that because that's not on my original document. I just wanted to show you that you can do that. Now, you cannot do underline because in HTML, underlines are for links and Markdown has this limitation. Just keep that in mind. Now, let's work with lists. Now, how do we make lists? Oh, just type. That's it, just type. Let's say I want to make that list over there and I want to make it right underneath here. 1 pets. Press enter and notice that the numbers start appearing automatically. Food and then jobs. But you might be asking, but professor, how do I get that indented list? Well, let's go back all the way to pets on top. And let's press enter one more time. Notice that it automatically adjusts the lists. I can just use the tab key on the keyboard and press once and it will automatically create an indented list. So examples of pets are dogs and cats. And I can do the same on the other one. Examples of foods are hamburger and pizza. Examples of jobs are programmer and engineer. And that's it. And you can keep on indenting. You have cloud engineer. You have software engineer. You have, I don't know, city engineer, and so on. And that's how you do order list. How do we do unordered list? Simple. We use the star character for that. And we follow the same principle. Right? As a matter of fact, we can use a star plus or the minus character. It doesn't matter which one we use. We can use all stars, plus characters, minus, or a combination of the three of them. And it's not gonna matter. For instance, why don't we create another list over here, this time unordered list, because it doesn't follow a particular order. And we're gonna say list of pets. And we're gonna start with a star and a space. That's it. Star, space. Dog, cat, parrot, and pitbull, potato, whatever you want to type. And if you want to indent it, again, you tab, russet, blue, green, black, and so on. And that's it. That's how you make unordered lists. So we're gonna get rid of this because we don't need that at all. There's no need to have that there. And we're gonna go back to our document and see what we can do with what we just learned. So over here we have a list of, a very small list. We have two lists over here, unordered and ordered list. So let's take care of that. This appears in the Ubuntu features section right over here. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to copy this line. And here we do LibreOffice, start, LibreOffice, and here we say version 7.3.5.2, and we have Firefox, enter, and then we do version 103.0.0.2, press enter, and then you can use the backspace key, the one you use for delete, and it will take you back to the previous order. And we have Thunderbird version 91.11.0, and we also have this this order list over here. Just copy it, paste, and we have one evolution and GIMP, then Pigeon, and we have Synaptic. Let's save our file and let's take a look at how this file is looking like. Let's see a preview of this file, and it's looking kind of nice already, doesn't it? So we're gonna close that preview and let's continue with the presentation. Now, block quotes. Block quotes are very useful when you want to have a specific paragraph, quote, or section of a text and you want the reader to pay attention to that. Similar to how you see a warning on the documentation of a software or a book that you're reading, right? That's sort of what a block quotes looks like. And to make him, it's just simple. Just use the greater than sign and then start typing. That's it. For example, let's see what our document has to offer. This is a block quote over here, right? So we're gonna copy this. And we're gonna put it right over here. So I always like to leave a space before, a space, and that's it. Now let me make sure this is formatted correctly, right? Okay, save, and let's preview it. Notice how nice and pretty our block quotes looks over here, right? Do we have any other block quotes? We don't. Okay. Now, code blocks. See, when you're writing documentation for a particular software, most of the time you like to put example codes or example commands or configurations, and you want the user to understand that the example that you're providing is actual code. And besides, it makes your documentation looks very nice, and it's gonna make your homeworks looks very readable as well when I ask you for a particular command. So how do we do that? We have two ways of doing this. We have code blocks, and we also have, I guess I didn't put it here, but we also have indented code, right? So let's take a look at that. For this, for creating code blocks, we use 3 backticks, which is also the key that is underneath the escape key on your keyboard, right? So how do we do that? It's quite simple. In our document, we have an example of the commands that are used for updating your Ubuntu system. So let's copy this. One, two, three, enter. And then over here, we type whatever code we want to provide as an example to our readers. Press it, paste it. 1, 2, and 3. Save. Now let's see how that looks like. Isn't that beautiful? Also, we can do it inline. So we can, for example, say, let's copy this, and let's paste it over here. So let's make sure all of that is in some paragraph like this, nice and beautiful. The commands in this particular paragraph, I want them to appear as code blocks, but I don't want to break the formatting of the paragraph. So how do we do that? We use a single backtick. So you can also add additional bits command line. For example, see, for example, right? And I would like to bold this. Why not? Let's bold it. And then let's do a single backtick at the beginning of the command, and then one backtick at the end of the command. Here we have another example. Let's bold this part over here. And let's format this as code. Right? Installation, removal. Let's save it and see a preview of this section. Notice how this gets bold, right? Gets bolded right away, and this appears as if it was code, right? Just like this, but right in between the line of the paragraph without breaking our formatting. Makes our documentation easier to read and easier to follow as well. So we're gonna close that, and we are gonna move this to the side. Okay, now let's talk about links. And this is the only part of Markdown that it's a little difficult. Links, that's it. I swear, it's the only part of Markdown that really it's gonna be a little bit complicated to get. But if you save this as your cheat sheet, you will always remember it. See, links, you have two parts. The first part is the actual text that is displayed to the user, right? Right, when you're reading, click here to go to google.com, right? The google.com part is the text that the user is reading. The URL is what the user is gonna click, and it's gonna take them there. So the text, we put it in brackets, in square brackets, and the URL, we put it in parentheses. And this can be to a path to a file, or it can be a URL to go on the internet. For instance, our document has this particular URL. So if you click on it, it takes you to ubuntu.com, right? Ubuntu.com. So we're gonna go all the way over here and we're gonna make sure that, let's see what it is. It is in Ubuntu release cycle, and we're gonna need to copy this over here. So let's copy this. And the word gets surrounded by square brackets. And over here, we put the link the user will be navigated to, will be taken to when they click on the word Ubuntu, which is https ubuntu.com. We save, and if we do a preview now, notice how this is highlighted as blue, indicating this is a hyperlink. So if we click on it, it should take us to ubuntu.com, right? So over here we have 2204, and we're gonna do the same thing. So we're gonna go back to our document. Let's click over here so we can copy that URL. And 2204, square bracket at the beginning, square bracket in the end, open and close parentheses, and inside we put the URL we want the user to go to. And again, if you do a preview and you click on 2022, it'll take you there. I'm pretty sure I probably did the wrong thing, because it's you're supposed to do 22.04 and I did April 2022. But you already know how to do it. How about you correct my mistake for me? So now that's links. The next part that's a little bit tricky is images. But if you remember how you do links, all you have to remember is to put a little question mark, a little exclamation mark at the beginning. So exclamation mark at the beginning, you need to put a message for the particular image in there, and then in parentheses you put the location of the image in your computer or the URL where the image lives on the internet. For instance, we're gonna do two examples over here. I'm gonna do one example with an image that I get from the web, and another example with an image that I have in my computer. So let's take a look at that. So our document here has this logo. And if you go to the file manager, you're gonna notice that we have that logo here, Ubuntu logo.png. So we can reference that file inside our Markdown file easily. So we start with an exclamation mark, and here we're gonna put a message. I'm gonna say this is Ubuntu logo. And then in the parentheses, we need to put the location of the image. This image is located in the same folder as my document is located. Therefore, all I have to do is type the name of the image. Ubuntu logo.png. And notice that the picture automatically gets inserted into my document. No magic happening. Now let's say that the image is not located in my computer. It's located on the web. I just grab the URL. For example, I want to put in there an image of a dog. I'm gonna say dog. So I'm gonna look for an image of a dog on the web. Dog image. And let's go to images, and this is a nice little puppy. So I'm gonna right click and copy image address, right? And if you paste it over here, it will take you exactly to where the image lives. So inside the parentheses, I'm gonna put the location of the image on the web. And notice how it gets referenced in my document automatically. Again, the path, the formula is the same all the time. Exclamation mark at the beginning, a description of the image, and then the location of the image, either your computer or a URL on the web. So we are gonna remove this because we don't need it in our document. And let's save. Next, I want to talk about tables. Now, tables take a little bit of time to get used to. I'm not going to ask you to do a lot of tables, and most of the time I'm going to provide you, with a structure already built that you can copy and paste, because I can understand they can be a little bit tricky, and it takes a little practice to get the hang of them. Now, the formula for tables is quite straightforward, but you can get lost easy. First, we start with the headers of the table. Then we do these little lines and pipes, and then we'll start typing our rows. For instance, this little table will turn into this. So let's build a simple table. Over here, I'm gonna say this is a table, and then I'm gonna build a table of pets. So I'm gonna start with pipe, and then the header. So this is gonna be pet name, and then I'm gonna have another column for the pet age, and then I'm gonna have another column for the pet's owner, and then I'm gonna end the column with a pipe. So we start the column with the pipe, we end the column with the pipe, we divide it in the middle with a pipe. Press enter, pipe again, put a couple of lines there, that's the first column, put a couple of lines there, that's the second column, and that's the third column. Now that looks pretty ugly, but thankfully we install an extension in Markdown that allows us to format the document, and it will do that formatting and make it pretty automatically for us. Now I am ready to insert the data into my table. Now if you do a preview of this, you're gonna see that the only thing we have available is just the heading of the table. We got nothing else. So let's add some. So I'm gonna say pipe over here, and I'm gonna see Lucky. Then the pet's age is 3, and the owner is Mark. Then I'm gonna add another pet. I'm gonna say Baba, and the age is 5, and the owner is Maria. Let's add another one. Let's say, I don't know, what a nice pet name. Glass. I'm gonna call mine Glassy. He's a nice, beautiful dog called Glassy, and the owner is John. Again, we are going to right-click, format document, and it will automatically add the necessary space to make our table look nice to the eyes. So when I click on Markdown Preview Enhance, and see how our table looks already. Easy enough, right? But it takes a little practice. So we're gonna remove this, and we're gonna try to recreate the table that we have in our document, which is this table over here. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna work on the headings first. Right, so we have, this is located in Ubuntu release cycle, so I'm gonna go to Ubuntu release cycle, and it is right over here. And we have this little text over here, which is a heading number 3. So we're gonna do heading number 3, and then we are gonna build our table. Always leave a space before and a space after the table, because it can create troubles every once in a while. So I always like to do that for formatting and to avoid issues in the future. So as you can see, there is a space here, and there is a space here. So we have version, so we have version, let me see so I can have better space, exactly, version. Then we have code name, then we have release date, then we have end of support, and finally we have security support end. So we have 1 column, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We got column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, and column 5. Let's click on format, and so far we are good. If we do a preview, we have the first row, which is the titles of our columns. So I'm gonna add some data to this. So we're gonna see 1404 LTS, then the code name is Trusty Tar, and it was released on 2014-04-17, and the support ended in 2019-04, but it has extended security support until 2034-04. Format, preview, perfect. I'm gonna let you do the rest of that table on your own so that you can use it for practice, and if you have any trouble, you just reach out to me via Slack and I'll be happy to help you. Okay, Markdown also supports the option to create checkboxes. This is not, you're not gonna be able to see this here on your document, but you will be able to see it on GitHub. This is something we might use later on in the future, so I'm gonna skip it for now. You also have, this is also supported only by GitHub Markdown, so have that in mind. You can also do syntax highlighting for different programming language, as GitHub can comprehend that. For example, this particular Markdown is gonna look like this. And if you want a cheat sheet of Markdown, you can just click on this link over here, and you have this beautiful cheat sheet over here that has pretty much everything the presentation has that you should keep for yourself, because you're gonna use it, you're gonna need it. Okay, so that ends the presentation of Markdown. Let's see if we can finish this lab. So what you need to do is make sure you complete the document. Make sure you complete the document with all the formatting and everything as you see it over here. Your document must look just like mine, and I already did a bunch of the work for you over here in the video, so you just have to review that you have everything there. Once you do that, what we're gonna do is, let's save this, and once you do that, you are going to export this file as a PDF and as HTML. So we're gonna right click, export as PDF, and now we should see a new PDF file pop up over here in a little bit. I'm pretty sure it's installing, probably installing something that I don't have, that I should have. And yep, there you go, it's almost done. And there you go. Here is my PDF file created from the Markdown that we were working on, and yours should look similar to mine. It should look very similar to mine. Okay, and then you're gonna export this to HTML. And there you go. Congratulations, you built your first website if you never wrote HTML ever in your life. And if you want to look how this, if you want to know how this website looks like, we can use the power of one of the extensions we installed earlier called Live Server. So we can right click and click on Open with Live Server. And this should open a website. Yes, allow access. This should open a website showing us how our Markdown gets converted into HTML. And from there on, you know, if you already know a little bit of CSS, you can start playing around with it. This, it was done just as a demonstration purposes, so you can see the power of Markdown and why you should learn it. So we're gonna close this, we're gonna close that. Next, upload all the files inside your lab folder, inside your lab 1 folder to your GitHub repository. Remember that I said we should keep this page open? That's when we go back to this page. And what we're gonna do is, let's go back full screen to this, and we're gonna add files to this guy. Where is the little icon to import files? I always forget where the icon is. Set up in desktop, no. Create a new file or upload existing files. It always eludes me somehow. So we're gonna choose files, and we're gonna go to documents, lab 1, and we're gonna select all of this stuff, and we're gonna click on open. Then we're gonna click on commit changes. And now we have these files in GitHub. Then we're gonna go to the next step. In Blackboard, you're gonna give me the PDF file that you converted your Markdown file from, and you're gonna give me the URL to your GitHub repository. So let's see if I am signing to PCC here, and I probably am not. And hopefully I can remember my password. And I don't. Don't save that, we don't need to save that. And let's go to Blackboard. Yes. And I believe this is the right one. And we're gonna go to Labs, Lab 1. And then we're gonna click on Browse Local Files. Here you're gonna give me the PDF of your submission, and you are going to just upload PDF. And you need the Markdown file as well, so we're gonna browse local files and give me the Markdown file as well. Once you do that, right, you can then come here, copy this URL, and you can put it either in the comment section over here, which I will be able to see, no problem, or you can click on Write Submission and paste it over here. Once you've done that, you click on Submit, and voila, you finish lab 1, and I'm happy to see you again for lab number 2. If you have an issue with this, contact me via Slack. I'll be more than happy to jump on a call and help you. Have a good one.